I want closure. Got to breaking point, fighting for so long.
In 2021, ZAYNA Iman was arrested at her flat and taken into police custody in Salford. And it's what follows that arrest, what she claims took place in a cell at Pendleton Police Station, that triggered the Baird inquiry, a review into the treatment of those taken into custody by Greater Manchester Police.
I believe at some point during my detainment I was drugged and sexually assaulted.
ZAYNA admits she was high on cocaine the night of her arrest and made what's called a subject access request to obtain this footage from her 40 hours in custody. In it, she's forced down onto a thin mattress, her jeans are removed and underwear cut off. She appears to be unconscious.
I look lifeless. So after the strip search, how does somebody go from intoxicated to sober to intoxicated again?
When ZAYNA was sent this footage, it was all jumbled up, and she says she had to spend a long time putting it in chronological order. She realised that 2 hours were missing, and it's what went on in those 2 hours that ZAYNA wants answers to. But Greater Manchester Police says the footage is on a corrupt disc and it may never be recovered.
I'm not buying the corrupted footage excuse at all. They're just prolonging the trauma.
The Independent Office for Police Conduct is investigating ZAYNA's claims. Although her experience is no longer included in the Baird review, she says she has no faith in the police.
All this could have been done in 2021. How am I supposed to trust the very bodies that let me down in 2021, 2022, 2023, but now in 2024, I'm meant to trust you?
Since ZAYNA spoke out, 14 more victims have come forward.
So this afternoon, I'll welcome to the show someone whose case I've been interested in for some time now. Her name is ZAYNA Iman. ZAYNA, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for being brave as well. It's important that people like yourself speak out. Some of my viewers will probably know who you are, some may not. So for those that aren't, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here.
Yeah, so my name is ZAYNA Iman, and in February 2021, I was arrested and detained by Greater Manchester Police for a period of 40 hours. That arrest has now been confirmed to have been unlawful, which means that everything from that point onwards was unlawful too. So during my detainment with Greater Manchester Police, I was SA'd by officers who are still serving 45 months later. But my campaign hasn't been about the SA element of the case. It's been about me fighting for the evidential footage for over 45 months and counting. So various rationales have been given for this footage. For example, it existed, it became exempt, then it got corrupted, and the very latest excuse is that it never existed. I did put a digital forensics request into the police, asking them to prove all these various issues occurred with my data set, and they were unsuccessful in proving that their servers malfunctioned, which means that they have the footage, but they don't want to give it because of what's on that footage. I decided to waive my right to anonymity last year. So Channel 4 News was the first coverage that I got. That was disproportionate arrests in May 2023. The second coverage I got was with Sky News, and it was unlawful strip searches, and that was in July 2023. That went viral because of the footage that I released. I released snippets of my time in custody.
I've seen those. They're quite harrowing. I've seen those.
And The footage that I released led to a public review into Greater Manchester Police, paving way for 14 other people, including men, to come forward and speak about similar issues to myself. Now, I was the central case in the review, and my case was the most extreme. So, like I said, the fight that I've got against Greater Manchester Police has got nothing to do with the SA element. It's all about them withholding evidential data that would prove or negate the allegations that I have made, which are obviously very serious. So this year, so in September, I decided to release a few seconds of every hour that I was detained that I do have. So bear in mind, there's 4.5 hours missing, but I do have some footage. And in that footage, you will see a sobriety period of 4 to 5 hours, and footage cuts out. And when I'm back in the cell, my presentation is in line with somebody that would be under the influence of date or chemicals, you know. So my question has always been, when you are in a police station, a place of safety, and you have been fully strip searched, including having your underwear cut off and had a metal detector used on you whilst you are unconscious, where have the chemicals come from? Do you know what I mean? So that footage is available in the public domain. So if you Google my name and Google the Mail Online article, you can see a few seconds of every hour that I was detained. There is other footage as well that I haven't fully released, and that includes footage of me bleeding from intimate areas, like places where you shouldn't be bleeding, you know, both front and back. This is something that's also highlighted in my medical records. And you've got to bear in mind, when I was unlawfully arrested, I can say that now because it's been confirmed, it was locked down. I hadn't left the house for 2 days. I had no visitors. Then I spent a period of 40 odd hours with Greater Manchester Police. And then I went straight to hospital from there. So, and it was a hospital that reported, obviously, being given chemicals. I know I can't say certain words on YouTube, and the SA, it wasn't made because I had no memory. Well, I had very limited memory recall in the form of flashbacks for the first 2 months, and I wasn't comfortable enough to come out and say categorically it was the police until April 2021. So I've been actively campaigning since 2021, and as part of my campaign, this is what I've achieved so far. I had the station officially named, and that station is Pendleton Station in Salford, Greater Manchester. I proved that they were making disproportionate arrests to increase arrest rates to help get themselves out of special measures. I managed to prove that they were conducting unlawful strip searches, and I've also managed to prove that they withhold data when there's allegations made against them. Now, the only part of my allegations that I've not managed to prove is the SA element, because they've got the data and they will not provide the data. Now, Greater Manchester Police have falsely claimed that it is just 2 hours that are missing, and that is factually incorrect. It's a total of 4.5 hours that are missing. So if anybody wants a bit of background information, just so they can scrutinise what I'm saying, scrutinise what the police are saying, I would say first maybe start off with the Channel 4 piece that was in May 2023. That's Channel 4 News, Disproportionate Arrest. The second piece, the unlawful strip searches, which is Sky News, and that was July 2023. And my personal favourite is the Mail Online article that came out in September 2024, only because it shows my presentation. It shows, I mean, don't get me wrong, on the night in question, I've always admitted that I was intoxicated and I was...
Zayna, can I just stop in there for a second? Let's go back to that night for a moment.
Yeah.
Let's go back right to the very beginning. How did this evening start for you?
Okay, yeah, so like I said, it was locked down. And like a lot of people, lockdown didn't really agree with me. I had no visitors. I lived alone. No visitors. Didn't go out for 2 days. Wasn't allowed to work. And I'm not going to lie, I got bored, so I decided to have a bit of the Colombian. And I'm sure a lot of people will know what I mean by that. And what I did was, I was in such a giddy mood. I rang a friend. Unfortunately, this friend had never seen me in that state before, and they got concerned. So because they got concerned, they rang 999 for a check on welfare. So then the police turned up, and I made it clear to the police that I did not want them there. I mean, from my presentation, you could tell I was very jolly. I wasn't a suicide risk or anything like that. And
aggressive in any way?
No, just like, you imagine somebody on like I said, on that stuff, just really giddy, dead smiley. I'm always smiling. I always get like everyone like says, why is she always smiling?
Giggly.
Yeah. I am a bit of a So that's just my natural disposition. I always smile, you know, and I was dead happy. And like I said, snippets, because Greater Manchester Police haven't released all the footage. Snippets of the footage from my house can be seen. So I was, they were communicating with me through the letterbox, screaming and shouting through the letterbox. There was 2 vans, 1 police car, 4 male officers and a female officer that arrived at my property for a check on welfare. So I'll repeat that: 4 male officers and a female officer for a check on welfare. So naturally I was startled, flashing blue lights outside my house, and I made it clear. I says, look, I'm fine. I'd like you to leave now. And they wouldn't, you know, and it was just over the hour mark, just over an hour. They came round the side of the property, put the barrel through for the kitchen patio doors, and all I heard was a loud bang, which was a barrel falling on the hard flooring. I heard footsteps, and then I've got 2 officers, because I'm stood in the hallway, 2 officers, male officers on either side. One's picked me up, and one's, I from memory, like, he was tugging at my arm, and I'm like, "Oi, what you doing that for?" kind of thing, because he was hurting me. Then they've placed me in the kitchen, and when they've placed me in my kitchen, at that point, I'm surrounded by 4 out of the 5 officers. Now, I'm like, this little snippet is out in the public domain, so just watch this footage if like, so you get what I'm saying. So there's a female officer that's come towards me. They've asked me, what have you taken? So it's clear that I'd taken something. So I said the D word and the C word, like, you know, and the woman that came towards me, like I said, it happened so fast, over an hour. I was telling them to go away, they won't go away. Then I've heard a bang, then I've had footsteps, like 2 picked me up, 1 tugging at me, placed me in the kitchen, surrounded. And when this female was walking towards me, I was so giddy. I can't, it's quite comical to watch, to be fair. Her glasses looked too big for her face. Think Deju Barlow, young woman, Deju Barlow glasses. I just swiped the glasses. It was like a child. It was so childish. And I believe, if you read the Mail Online article, because I struggle to watch the footage myself, so I always rely on other people to watch it. But I believe she alleged that I slapped her. It wasn't a slap. It was a swipe of the glasses. I didn't physically touch her, and nor did the glasses break. So it has since been confirmed by Dame Vera Baird and Andy Burnham, who's the Mayor and Police and Crimes Commissioner. I should never have been arrested on the night in question. The handcuffs went on. I've been dragged out the house quite aggressively, barefoot, shoved in a van. And I arrive at the station at 2:19. Now you can imagine on the stuff that I had, I was really lively, like really wide awake. So I arrived at 2:19 a.m. Arrived at 2:19 a.m. in the van dock. So if you write the time down, 2:19 a.m. I arrived at the van dock, but the first sighting of me in custody is at 3:26, right? And at 3:26, I'm absolutely lifeless, right? I am not moving, and I am being dragged into a cell by 4 to 5 officers, a male officer looking on. I'm placed face down on the floor, unconscious. They basically cut all my clothing off, cut my underwear off, used the metal detector, left me unconscious, face down on the floor without, like, do you know what I mean? Semi-naked.
Do you remember, sorry, Zayna, do you remember what, between 2:19?
Yeah, this is the weird thing, right? So my biggest gripe is this particular footage, and I can't emphasize it enough, right? So from 2:19 to 3:26, that is an absolute blackout in my memory. I absolutely have no recall of that period, absolutely nothing, which would make sense. But the thing is, right, it's really bizarre because they have in January this year, they released the vehicle footage, which was me being pulled, them pulling into the car park, the Van Dock area, and 2:19 to 3:20, there's absolutely no memory recall. However, I have never made allegations for that period, and the reason I've not made allegations for that period because I can't make allegations for a period where I don't remember it. But this is the important bit. That's not to say that nothing happened in that period, and the reason I say that is because I remember after I'd been strip searched, and almost immediately after the officers walked out the room, I've started to come round. And I've come round and I remember looking around and thinking, why have I got no top on? And the first I've read up on it, and you know, like when you've been spiked, basically, the first thing is you don't remember, and you start questioning, like, why am I here? And I couldn't remember why I was there. I'm looking down, like, why have I got no top on? And it was at a point that I believe something did happen in that period, but I've never made the allegation that it happened. But the police are being so sketchy with that footage, and they will not admit to that footage like be existing. So basically what they're saying is that 3:26 was actually 2:26. So I asked them to provide me proof that the timestamp was out. Now they were unsuccessful in providing me with a timestamp. So like I said, like high on the Colombian in the vehicle at 2:19, 3:26 completely gone. Who does that on that stuff? It just does not happen. You can stay awake for days on that stuff, you know. And I didn't. So I believe something did happen in that period. So my allegations are for my time in custody, because that's where I've got the memory recall, right? So conveniently 10 a.m. on day 1's missing, and 1 p.m. on day 2's missing, as well as my departure footage. So if I quickly run through the hours that are missing, there's approximately an hour's worth of footage missing from my house. And the reason they didn't give me that was because it showed that there was no reason to break in. So the hour from my house, I'm not too bothered about, because Andy Burnham and Dean Vera Baird have admitted that I should never have been arrested. So that I'm not bothered about. The footage that I really, really want is the 2:19 to 3:26, because I've got no memory recall for it. How have I gone from the high to absolutely
low? Yeah, to out. Yeah.
In the space of, so 2:19 to 3:26, what, that's an hour and 6 minutes. How do you go off the Richter scale, bouncing off the wall high, to absolutely lifeless? It doesn't happen, right? So then what they've said is the 2 hours from the cell where I do make the allegations for have existed, then became exempt, then got corrupted, and the very latest excuse is that they never existed. And my departure footage, right? So there's no departure footage. I remember being in like really, really severe discomfort down there, you know, in the front and back. So I'm assuming I was struggling to walk, because my memory recall is there was an officer to this side and there was an officer to this side, and they were walking me into a transportation vehicle out of Pendleton Station. So I'm assuming I would have been walking funny, and I believe that's the reason they've not gave that very footage. Footage aside, they took my forensic clothing off me February 2021, and they submitted it for forensic analysis 27 months later, after media coverage in May 2023. So what forensic opportunities left there? So in essence, they've destroyed all the forensic opportunities, and I believe that's the reason they kept me for over 40 hours. So
was there any feedback on the forensic evidence at all?
27 months later, Paul, what evidence is there going to be left? They actually admitted to destroying my custody shorts. Now I'm going to just like mention something now. So I obviously did tell the hospital that I believed that something happened at the police station, but my memory recall was just so sketchy. It was just literally flashbacks, and they did actually note that down on my hospital report. But the Greater Manchester Police, for the first 2 months, were investigating an R at my home address, knowing full well that it happened at Pendleton Station. And I believe they did that was to seize my forensic clothing, which they successfully did. They admitted to destroying the custody shorts on the same day, because the custody shorts were used as part of what had happened. Because I remember water, I believe the water was one element, but I remember during the assault, which didn't take place in the cell that I was in, it happened in a different room, but the shorts were used, they were pushing it against my face, and I remember a strong chemical smell. What that strong chemical smell is, I have no idea, but if I were to smell it again, it was that distinctive, I'd remember it. So they admitted to destroying them the same day. Now, I started speaking out officially in April 2021, but naturally, with the where do you go when the police are the perpetrators, and that's the dilemma that I had. So I finally plucked up in April 2021. I actually moved to Sheffield because I didn't feel safe living in Salford anymore. I plucked up the courage to report Greater Manchester Police to South Yorkshire Police in July 2021. South Yorkshire Police came to the house. They took a 2-hour statement, which I still do have, and I reeled off the early memory recall because my memory recall has come back in stages. So I reeled off the early memory recall. But when I made the request to Greater Manchester Police in February 2021, I had a fight on my hand because they would not part with the data. So I made the request for the footage and all my custody records in February 2021 to help with memory recall. It wasn't to make an allegation, it was to help with my memory recall, but they wouldn't give it. In July 2021, I gave South Yorkshire Police my early memory recall. GMP did nothing to action that report because it was sent to them. But I finally got my custody records in October 2021. But when I got my custody records in October 2021, they'd conveniently made all the relevant redactions. I'll give you an example. 50% of the names on my custody records are redacted. That, I've been told, is unheard of. Your custody record, you get given, if you can release half the names of officers that were there, you can release all the officers' names. They've not gave any significant reason for redacting data. Then, like I said, I had an absolute fight on my hand. I finally got the footage that I do have in February 2022. So around a year later. Bear in mind, when you put in a subject access request to any government body, they're meant to comply within 30 days, up to 3 months, if there's stuff like COVID happening, whatnot. But the footage that I do have, I received a year later, and then what they did was when they sent me the footage in February 2022, a year later, they sent it in a non-chronological order. It was all over the shop. So I remember thinking, oh my God, this doesn't make sense. Like, I know it happened there, but how have they managed to give me 40 odd hours worth of footage? Because I was there 40 odd hours. So what I've done is I've sat at home and I've watched all the footage on fast speed because I didn't really want to watch it. I've put it all in order, and that's when I realised that there's 4.5 hours missing. An hour from my house, from the van dock to the cell, the 2 hours in custody, and my departure footage. So then I had another fight on my hands. Now, in the course of fighting for this footage, I was always told the footage exists. Numerous officers have viewed it. Absolutely nothing happened to you. So I always said, if nothing happened to me, give me that footage. I need to see it, I need to see that footage. That's my data, and they wouldn't give it. So in May 2022, they assigned me an officer that was accused of the same offence as me back in 1984 in May 2022. In June 2022, the ICO, who homes me first investigating officers co-accused, they told me the footage was exempt from disclosure because Greater Manchester Police had jumped up charges against me. So they created charges against me to prevent the release of that 4.5 hours that are missing. Wow. Right. So and in 2022 there was attempts to have me sectioned as well, because I just would not back down. I just would not stop speaking. But my case wasn't high profile. I was just some mad woman ranting on Twitter and social media and writing emails and letters to everyone and anyone I could think of, and just hitting a brick wall everywhere. Push came to shove in May 2023. There was a period where I didn't actually want to be here anymore. It got too much. But then when you hit rock bottom, it's fight or flight, isn't it? So I decided to fight back, and I decided to wave my right hand in the middle. I thought, I've got no quality of life. I'm going to put it all out there. Don't care. And I'm going to be honest, I should never have been forced to resort to that. But I don't have any regrets.
Let me take you back, because I mean, look, what you're saying is making sense to me. Here's some of the things I've written down here that I want to ask you and have occurred to me. First of all, if you being on the substance that you admit to being on, I would think that you would be on a high, not falling asleep. That's the first thing. Secondly, what's caused this memory loss? Why the memory loss? And you know, why would someone? I mean, this is an everyday Saturday night. Did you say it was a Saturday?
Was it a Friday or a Saturday? I can't remember.
Friday or a Saturday. Friday or Saturday. You know, a bit of gear, whatever. You know, this is bread and butter for the police. They would deal with this every day of their lives. Why the fuss? Why 40 hours in custody without charges? I take it.
Yeah, charge.
Why would someone like yourself, having been released with no charge, why would you make all this up? Why would you choose to not ruin your life, but dedicate your life to getting this out in the open? Where's the data? All these questions are on my mind. I mean, I know that you can't answer them, but these are things that keep coming up as you're talking. You know, 40 hours for a start in custody with no charge. Did you have any legal representation while you was there?
Absolutely nothing. Nothing.
Was it offered you?
No, not that I remember. No. I mean, even things like when I was bleeding, they've not even documented the fact that I was bleeding from both passages. You know, they did a lot of
and this was confirmed by the hospital afterwards.
That's on me. If you read the Mail Online article, I'm sure they covered it. I'll be honest, when I give media interviews, I obviously have to read snippets and watch snippets, but I try not to read it. So I get friends to read it and they give me feedback on it, because obviously I just don't want to read it over and over again, you know. Or watch it over and over again. But so it's on the Mail Online article, which was released in September 2024. So that article was probably the favourite because it documents some of the lies, not all of the lies the police have told, but some of the lies, and it'll give a lot of people that disbelieve what I'm saying a lot of food for thought. But like I said, I've always said, look, okay, there's one very easy way to prove or negate what I'm saying. Give the data.
Show the footage. Yeah, show the footage.
Know, and you've got to bear in mind, I come from a South Asian background. It's cost me a lot personally because nobody speaks to me. It's like you know, like I bring it back to the Manchester Airport case. That case has got a lot of support from the Asian community because they're men, even though they beat a woman up, they're men. But because I'm female, there's been absolutely zero support there. So I've lost a lot personally as well, you know, and I've had to put footage out there, like, and I just want people to put themselves in my position. Go out there and watch the three that I've asked you to watch, and just read the Mail Online article, watch that footage, and ask yourself, if that was you, would you put that data out knowing that it's going to be there for life and people are going to, like, I don't know, scrutinize it and take the mick, you know, and it's going to be out there for life, you know. I mean, I'm now training to be a journalist, an investigative journalist, and I've obviously done on the job training with some big media places, and I was recognized on day 2, you know, but it's kind of like working in my favor, but it could have worked the opposite way where, oh, she's taking stuff. And
so are you saying that, you know, from your own community it's been difficult?
Yeah, majority of my support, I'd say 90% of the support that I've got is from the so-called far right. It's bizarre, honestly, it's mental. But yeah, absolutely nothing. I've got maybe 2 or 3 women that have like got in touch, but that's because they've experienced SA, you know. Other than that, I'm kind of like viewed as like a shame to the community. But you know, when I get the thing is, a lot of people don't realize what I've achieved for other people. I've actually paved way for so many other voices to come forward, and there is other people that are going to be coming forward at the moment as well. But I just want people to remember, my fight isn't about my allegations, okay? It's not about my allegations. It's about that 4.5 hours worth of footage that they're eager to claim is only 2 hours, and that's all I've ever fought for. So the excuses, like I said, that I've been used today, and all this that I'm saying can be seen on my Twitter page, because I've in the media tab I've put all the examples. So the footage existed, and I've got 13 individuals on record saying that the footage existed in full. This includes the former Deputy Mayor Kate Green, former Deputy Mayor Beverly Hughes, current Deputy Mayor Kate Green, Dame Vera Baird, and 10 GMP officers of various ranks saying that that footage existed entirely. Then I've got the ICO saying that the missing 4.5 hours footage was exempt from disclosure because of the jumped up charges to prevent the release of that data. And then after media, they alleged 2 hours became corrupt. But if 2 hours are corrupt, where's the other 2.5 hours? And the very latest excuse that the IOPC have used is that that footage never existed.
Never existed.
Yeah, so all 4 positions can't be right. So what I did, Paul, I put in another subject access request this year, asking for the digital forensics, the digital footprint of all these so-called errors, like the timestamp errors, the footage existing, becoming exempt, becoming corrupted to never existing. And do you know what? They were unsuccessful in providing the digital forensics. The digital forensics is just basically the server error logs. You know, every computer system has it. You know, it's like somebody that abuses kids, that they might wipe their hard drive, but the police retrieve that hard drive, and you can always go into the back of that hard drive to get that data. They've not been able to prove it, but instead what they've done, Paul, is they've admitted to a serious data breach instead.
It's funny that you say about ultimately the footage never existed, because I tell you something, Zayna, I've experienced this myself, not in the same way that you have, but I was once the victim of a robbery where I knew the perpetrators were caught on CCTV. First of all, they made the excuse that the cameras weren't working. I proved that to be wrong. Then they claimed that the footage had been corrupted. And then finally, they said that the footage never existed in the first place. Because when you get to that point, it doesn't exist. Well, that's the end of your argument, isn't it? If it doesn't exist, where do you take that from there? You can't keep going back and say, well, you know, that's their ultimate excuse, that it didn't exist in the first place. I guess a lot of people are going to...
But can I just say... So bear in mind, if I was lying, why would they have held a public review into what I was saying? Yeah, public reviews don't come cheap, okay? And since then, they allege 24 out of the 26 recommendations in that public review are being implemented and GMP have improved. But I'd like to emphasize that you cannot improve when you have predatory officers still serving, not just in my case, but it was proven that 7 of the other cases were also unlawfully arrested and unlawfully searched, like strip searched. So all the predatory officers in all 8 cases are still serving. So if you still got officers serving that have abused their power, they're going to do it again because they've got away with it once. And this is something that the public aren't aware of. And I really, really want to emphasize this because the media won't cover it. So I've got more chance of getting this out via like your podcast. So this is like fresh information, right? So Andy Burnham is the Police and Crimes Commissioner for Greater Manchester Police, as everyone knows. So any failures of Greater Manchester Police reflect badly on him, okay? So it's in his interest to make sure that they get good publicity. So Andy Burnham employed a fellow Labour peer, Dame Vera Baird, to be the face and name of this public review. But Dame Vera Baird's team was made up of Andy Burnham staff. I'm going to give you an example, and you can Google the names after. Dame Vera Baird's secretary was Carol Judge Campbell. Google her, she works for Andy Burnham. The woman that was always responding to the Baird review team emails was Vicky Sugars, Andy Burnham staff member. So how is that an independent review when it's done by the Police and Crimes Commissioner's staff members? You know, with Dame Vera Baird's name and write up of it. Come on, because when I've met Dame Vera Baird twice, she barely knew my case. She was relying on Vicky Sugars and Carol Judge Campbell to fill in the box because she didn't have a clue. And I've got these authorised recordings. So anything that I'm saying, I have to make sure that I've got the data to back it up because my legal team said, as long as I've got the data to back up what I'm saying, it's fine. I mean, I know I've not got the data to back up the essay, although there's an element of it on my medical records, but then it's for Greater Manchester Police to prove that I'm lying. And how do they prove I'm lying? By giving the very footage that they won't give in the first place. So that public review wasn't independent. And like I said, like there's been a massive PR drive, and Greater Manchester Police and Andy Burnham are going to be doing a massive PR campaign to say, oh, look, we've made improvements. But I want people to know if those predatory officers in 8 of the cases are still serving, and these are cases that we know of, not everybody gets their voice heard or wants to come forward. If at least in all those 8 cases, predatory officers are still serving, how could a police force improve? You know, it's nonsensical. Do not buy into the PR script. So I think the main thing is, right, so now, I mean, I know what you're saying. Where do you go from? I was
going to say, what would represent at this stage for you, Zayna? What would represent justice or closure?
Do you know what? Like I said, my fight, I get accused of all sorts, Paul. You know, oh, she's after fame. There's easier ways to make yourself famous, you know. Oh, she's after money. There's easier ways to make money. I will not even tell you what this campaigning has cost me the last 45 months. And I'm not even talking monetary sense. In overall, it's cost me a lot. You know, there's easier ways to make money. You know,
it was a very strange way to try and forge a career. But
I mean, I am educated to degree level, you know, and I think people just make assumptions. But I mean, I'd say 90% of the public do support me. But you know, when you said that, where do you go when the police says the footage doesn't exist? This is the thing. I've got a lot of arguments, right? But my case is now currently under investigation with the IOPC. And I have got to tell you, the IOPC claim to be independent, but they really are not independent. Just because a government body has the word independent in its name, it doesn't mean that they truly are. And you only realize that when you start navigating the system, right? So IOPC have been aware of my case and my case since 2021, but they openly said in a letter to me that we decided to take your case on due to extreme media and public pressure. So had there not been media and public pressure, the IOPC would never have got involved. So they are involved. However, this is how a police IOPC investigation works, right? They rely upon referrals from the police force. So they're basing their investigations on referrals of complaints I've sent to Greater Manchester Police. So Greater Manchester Police have cherry-picked the complaints that they want to send to the IOPC. So there's 11 crucial areas, Paul, that the IOPC will not take on. And do you know why they won't take on those 11 areas? Because they show clear criminality. Now, if I can, am I able to just quickly summarize those 11 areas?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Right, so if anybody, I'm not going to mention names on YouTube because obviously you've given me the briefing beforehand, but if anybody wants to know the names behind these 11 areas, please visit my social media. I've documented the names. Like I said, anything that I can prove, I can say legally. So these are the 11 areas. I've had to write them down because my mind sometimes wanders off when I'm talking about stuff like this. So normally I don't make notes, but I'm just going to read out the 11 areas that the IOPC will not investigate. And I've got a fight on my hand to get IOPC to investigate these 11 areas. And it'll make sense to you then. Do you know the question you said, like, where do you go when they tell you which didn't exist, right? So the very first one of the areas is being assigned an officer that was accused of the same thing I'm accusing other officers for. So you get an alleged predator to investigate alleged predators. That was a calculative move, right? So the name for that officer is out in the public domain, and so, and I've put a lot of data on him, including phone calls, historical articles about his allegations against him. Then one of the 5 check on welfare officers that was dispatched to my property, one of them was dispatched from the station that I was held at because he was trained to break in. So, popping the barrel through, the barrel that hit the floor. Greater Manchester Police gave me the wrong rank, the wrong collar number, the wrong first name, a different spelling to the surname as well for the best part of 2.5 years. Wow. I put in official complaint, and even when I got the outcome for the complaint, they still lied in the outcome. But it took in the region of 60-70 emails across the board and threatening them to go to the media for them to admit the correct identity, but it was the IOPC that told me the correct identity. The data for this officer is on my social media as well. Will you link my social media after?
I will do, yeah.
And then, like I said, I watch my footage on full speed, but and the articles and stuff that's written, I normally get a friend to read them, so I've not read it myself. But apparently, so the female officer whose glasses I swiped, she obviously exaggerated what happened to justify the arrest. So I put her name out there as well because it's already been confirmed I was a disproportionate arrest by Andy Burnham and Dame Vera Baird, who conducted the public review into Greater Manchester Police, that I should never have been arrested. So she needs looking into. Then you've got the Deputy Chief Constable. Now, the Deputy Chief Constable has gone on record, so this statement is still on Greater Manchester Police's website, to say that they have not deliberately withheld my footage, right? So I've already said I've got 13 individuals saying the footage existed. I've got evidence that it was exempt because due to jumped up charges, to the fact that it got corrupt and now it never existed. So that statement, that is a Deputy Chief Constable's putting out a false statement. So my strip search video in its entirety is out in the public domain, but a statement that was attributed to the Assistant Chief Constable claims that I was not strip searched. That strip search was done under a different legislation for welfare reasons. So turns out I was strip searched. There was no other legislation, and there were no welfare grounds according to my risk assessment. So that entire strip search was unlawful. So you've got an Assistant Chief Constable attributed to that. Then you've got the officer who had me strip searched before I was officially detained. So you've got to detain somebody first and process them before you're allowed to strip search them. But he had me strip searched, and then they authorized my detainment, and like I said, the strip search was done despite there being no legal grounds. The risk assessment is on my social media as well. So he has conveniently retired Paul, right? Okay. Then the next officer is the officer who downloaded the 4 discs where the 4.5 hours have existed, exempt, corrupted, never existed. Conveniently, he's retired as well. The officer that took over the investigation from the predatory officer I assigned, she'd the jumped up charges were down to her. They won't investigate her for the jumped up charges because, like I said, there was pending charges against me. The IOPC knew about these charges. The mayor's office knew about these charges. But after media, they've vanished. When I bring it up, they will not even talk about it. If I say, I have actually said, Andy Burnham, the jumped up charges, why are you not investigating that? They just sit there. They will not even talk about it. They will not acknowledge it. So the jumped up charges and the officer who claimed them, the woman that seized my forensic clothing from me in February 2021, but then they only submitted them after 27 months later when Channel 4, the first media coverage I got, she needs looking into. The officer who started investigating the allegations at my home address, knowing full well it happened at Pendleton, he needs looking into. Now, there was a custody nurse, and from memory recall, this custody nurse treated me horrifically. She was one of the boys, and so you all remember I said I arrived at the Van Dock at 2:19. She says that I arrived at the station at 1:46. The officers didn't even break in till 1:50. So how I was at the station at 1:46, I don't know. But she's falsified my medical records for my time in Pendleton. So they're the officers. But also, I'd like people to watch the footage that I've mentioned on the Mail Online article. It's in my pinned tweet on my Twitter X page.
I'll link them all below in the video description.
Well, if you watch that, right, so what Greater Manchester Police did was I've got no history of mental health, and this has been put in the public domain as well. But as part of the cover-up, and I believe the cover-up started at the station, they put me on a police 136 section. So a police 136 section is normally a section where if you're not in a place of safety, so say if you're outside and you're making a scene, they can detain you under the Mental Health Act. But because I was at a police station, technically I was in a place of safety. So that 136 section was unlawfully applied from what I've been told. And I've got the footage for the time that the 136 was applied, not once, but twice. So twice they've applied the 136 to extend my stay. And nobody saw me in the cell. I was by myself. How can you detain someone under the Mental Health Act on a police section done by the police when you've not even seen that person in person? But then what they did was they called in external professionals, told them I was extremely violent, extremely volatile, that it was unsafe for them to look at me in the cell and observe me in the cell. So they've just rubber stamped it off and they've gone away. I'm going to say something else as well on this. So, and I've got the footage for that section period as well. Now, I'd like people to go online. Like I said, there's a 5-hour, so obviously on arrival, I was high. Then after the strips, during the strip search, I'm lifeless. But then there's a 4 to 5 hour sobriety period. Footage goes missing, and then my behaviour becomes very I don't know how to say, if I can say the word
Yeah, go on.
Right, sexual. My behaviour became really sexual. So how do you explain that? Do you know what I mean? And I'd like to enforce, somebody sent me some data which was really interesting, so I've actually put that on my Twitter page as well. So there's a Greater Manchester police officer that is on the board of governors for the Greater Manchester Mental Health Trust. Make of that what you wish. But so the sections were dubious because, like I said, I've got no previous history, no history before or after. So what went so wrong during my stay in custody for me to be sectioned 3 times without being seen in person. But I would now want people to have a look at the footage and tell me if you think that is psychosis.
Well, there's a hell of a lot going on here in a relatively short period of time that need a lot of answers. There's a lot of questions there.
Yeah.
You know, so bringing this towards a conclusion, Zayna, what would you like to happen now? What you know, what about Andy Burnham, etc.? Tell me how you want this video to help you. How can we help you?
Right, Paul, I know, I always knew I'd never get the footage because I know what's on that footage, and no police force is going to release footage of them abusing somebody on police premises. It's as simple as that. For me, I gave up like the hope of justice a very, very long time ago, you know, because I've seen how it works. It's just so corrupt. I can't even put it into words. So for me, it's always been important to use my experience to raise awareness, and I think I've done an absolutely amazing job of that. So I just want help in raising awareness. I have never asked for money, and nor will I ever ask for money. You can go through everything I've ever done. I've never wanted any money. But my ideal, what I want now is, and I've challenged these people a couple of times, but they refuse to do it, right? So my dream is, right, for people to help put pressure on Andy Burnham, on Stephen Watson, on the IOPC, and on Dame Vera Baird to sit in a room with me. I won't have any legal team, just me and them and a camera crew, and talk to me in person. Because if I present the receipts to their face, they can't do their PR spin. Right now, they are spinning this. And when the IOPC conclude their report, they're going to spin this. Have a conversation with me face to face, and I will take you all on verbally and produce the receipts. And that's what I want. I want people to know that I'm not lying. And the reason I want people to know I'm not lying, because I want people in Greater Manchester to be wary when they are interacting with Greater Manchester police officers, because there is a lot of predators that have not been held to account. And if they've got away with it once, they're going to do it again. And I'm a bit conflicted at the moment. I had a male contact me recently, and he sent his footage to me. And do you know what, Paul, I'm going to do? I'm going to WhatsApp you his footage just so you can then verify it as well. He sent me his footage, and I'm going to just like describe it. So he was searched, and he was allowed to take his own clothes off. He was pinned against a wall. I couldn't see him obstructing. That they're looking like to do a cavity search, and they're trying to get him to kind of bend over, but he wouldn't bend over. So then they're trying to trip him up. So anyway, that's the first search. And then a few hours later, so they've left him in a cell with just a t-shirt, no boxers, just a t-shirt. A few hours later, they're now wearing hazmat suits. They've got a riot helmet on. They are pulling him in via his head. And what they've done is they've placed him on the floor. He's not resisting. They've cut his t-shirt off, right? So hazmat suits, riot helmet, one guy, 5 of them, right? And there's one that's actually mounted him. Do you know, like a dog would mount somebody? I'm trying to like word it in a way that you'll be able to put it out. But he's actually straddling them. And this guy at this point is completely naked, face down. Do you know what I'm going to do, Paul? Because have you got your phone with you? I'll WhatsApp it to you now.
Yeah. Send it to me.
And then you can just quickly confirm it. It's 25 seconds. So the hazmat one, I'm going to just send it. Now, I'm a bit conflicted on this one because he really wants me to release the footage. But I don't know. I feel like he's so vulnerable, and I don't want to feel like I'm taking advantage. But I think people need to see this because the officers in his case are still serving as well. And I don't want people to think that this is a brown girl problem or a woman problem, because he is a white British male. The others in the public review were predominantly white women. So I've just become the poster girl for a predominantly white problem, you know? So I want, it could happen. The youngest victim was 14 as well. I'm 40 next year. So it doesn't, age, race, colour, sex, doesn't matter. Everyone's a potential target. But yeah, I'm going to just quickly send you this and you can verify this footage, because I've not put it up online yet, because like I said, I'm a bit conflicted because I need to make sure that he knows that footage is going to be out there.
Sure.
forever, you know, and I feel like I've got a bit of a duty of care now because I am training to
How does he seem, you know, mentally? Does he seem okay mentally?
I think because he was obviously abused as a child, like, so I'm gonna, like, when officers when any predator targets a victim, sorry, I'm just going through my phone, when any predator targets a victim, they pick their victims very carefully. They deliberately pick victims that are not perfect on paper, because if you're not perfect on paper, no, there's less chances of you being credible in the public's eye or credible in court. So unfortunately, because he was abused and he comes from a care home background, he's got an extensive criminal record where he has been charged. But my point is, for me, I think he's served his time. Okay, yes, he's been naughty. He served his time, and because he's served his time, it's not for the police to dish out punishment. That's for the courts to do. The police, when you're in their care, they should look after you, you know, because their job is to obviously serve and protect. You know, you're not meant to be there. I've just sent you the footage, so do you want to
I'm watching it now, Zayna. Yeah,
I've got the full version now, because he sent me that first because he didn't know if he could trust me or not, but he's actually sent me footage now in the version that I've put out. So do you know, the full colour version, it's just as bad. Now, do I put this footage out to warn people?
What the hell am I watching now?
I know. Explain that.
The guy. Wow. I mean, the officer that he's climbing on top of him, and the actions are more than bizarre.
That's a white British male. I believe he's the same age as me. He's 39. But the officers in his case are serving. So look, he's got a bit of a dodgy past, but he was a care home victim. He's
completely irrelevant. His past is irrelevant.
But the thing is, right, should the police be doing that? Where in Pace Code does it say the police should do that? And he's been begging me to put this footage out, but Paul, I'm conflicted. I don't know if I should put him through that, because he's so vulnerable. I mean, I know when I've been told that I've had people go all out on me, and I'm just worried that if he receives the same treatment that I received, is he going to be able to handle it? So it's a moral dilemma for me.
My own thoughts on it is, given his background, I would say that, you know, he needs to think very carefully about it. But what it does show me is that things are taking place that I would never believe are taking place without seeing stuff.
I mean, I would personally say I mean, like I said, I've got the original version of his footage now, and his footage is probably worse than mine, because you actually see an officer mount him. Yes, the officer's fully dressed, but why should the officer's groin area be on a bare backside, and he's basically dry humping him, isn't he?
Well, what is, I'm trying to understand what he's trying to achieve by being in that position.
Well, Paul, do you know what? If like, will you not, like, obviously share the footage, but just so you can verify it? I'll send you the original version, because obviously he sent me and he said he can, because he said, because I took him to a meeting with me. I says, look, there's not much I can do because I'm still fighting my case for myself, but I can get you like media contacts, or take you to, like, help you raise awareness, basically. So I took him to a meeting. And I've obviously mentioned his case online, but I've not mentioned his name. But he's saying, since he's obviously come to me, and he's I think the police realise who he is, so they've kind of stepped up the intimidation tactics just to shut him up, because he backs my allegations, because it's somebody that I didn't know, a complete different demographic, male, white, you know, and I don't have a criminal record. He has a criminal record. Like I said, it doesn't make a difference. Imperfect people are perfect victims, because no one's going to believe it, you know. Yeah, so I'm going to send you the original, and will you just give me your thoughts? Because he said I could send it to trustworthy people. Because the thing is, I want to raise awareness, and I want people to know that this does happen. And I've had people contact me from other forces as well, Paul. But they're too scared to speak out. Some say they've got kids. Some say that they won't be believed because they're mentally not well. You know, and I'll be honest, it's not the easiest thing to do. You've got to be very, very tough to take these.
It's not something that you want to. It's not something that strikes me that you do as a hobby. I mean, look, Zayna, I will say, look, obviously everyone has the right to reply. Greater Manchester Police, if you want to come on, you're welcome. Andy Burnham.
Well, have them on with me. I'll even come on. I'll happily
Ideal. So Andy Burnham, if you're watching, there's your chance. Come and put the record straight.
Paul, they accidentally sent me internal communications, which I'm happy to send them to you as well. It confirms that they watch everything that I do online. So, like I said, I've got absolutely nothing to hide, and I would like a meeting with the top dogs at Greater Manchester Police, Andy Burnham, Dame Vera Bird, and the IOPC with the camera crew. Yeah, not behind closed doors where you can deny it. Right. We're on camera, just me. I won't even bring any legal people. I'll come myself as long as we're allowed a camera in the room, right? Have a meeting with me. If you've got nothing to hide and if you're not actively protecting predatory officers, what you're scared of, all of you could easily discredit me. They will not do it, though. They will not do it. But yeah, right to reply, see what they say.
Well, let's see. Zayna, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate your bravery and your time. And, you know, look, stay in touch. Keep us up to date with what's happening. And if you need any help, you know where we are.
I think we've got mutual friends because I mentioned you to somebody yesterday and he goes, oh, yeah, I know him.
Oh, that's good. Do you want to, who was it? Do you want to name him or?
Wendell Daniels. I said to Wendell rang me yesterday.
Yeah.
He goes, oh yeah, I know Paul. And good he goes, stuff. Oh, we're all part of the same like circle. I think you all.
Yeah. A big friendly circle. Zayna, take care. All the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on. Bye bye.
My pleasure.